the way that you can get your questions in the future on the show is to submit them on Twitter at Star Podcast, Facebook.com/Star Podcast, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Joe, first question from the inbox comes from Dan. Dan wants to know, Joe, what are typical conversations drivers have with each other at driver intros?
Well, most of the time it's not about racing. We're talking about stuff that's going on outside the racetrack, things that they're doing. Some people play a lot of golf. They're talking about their golf games and where they're going to ride motorbikes or motorcycles and sand dunes. They talk about everything, but basically racing.
That's awesome. I have to follow up on that too. Like when you guys do the truck rides around the track and just you and another driver, are those conversations like that as well, or are those a completely different monster there too?
Well, it depends who you're riding with. Some of those, especially if you get in a truck with somebody that you had a problem with the week before, you're telling them, hey, you're a dumbass for doing what you did last week, and get ready for what's coming to you. That's hey, those conversations happen. It's all fair game. So pretty fun.
Tyler, I think I heard one of the coolest conversations that came out of a truck ride recently was 2015. Justin Allgaier, Dale Earnhardt Jr. riding in a truck together at Darlington. And Junior asks him, hey, what are your racing plans next year? And he goes, I don't have any. And then that ultimately struck up the deal for Justin to go run the 7 car in 2016, and a ride he still has to this day.
Yeah. So, Joe, tell me this. Is there any conversations that come to mind you mind sharing with us that you had of those moments you referenced there?
I'm trying to remember who it was. If it was Michelle Paluto, one of them wrecked me at Phoenix, and then I end up having the ride with them. I can't remember if it was the next race was Bristol or Homestead or somewhere when he was running full time in the Xfinity deal. And I asked him quite a few questions about what his problem was and how he learned how to drive and where he learned how to drive. So he didn't have a lot of responses, I can say that.
That is too funny. I have to ask you, have you ever had any truck rides with the namesake of the show, David Starr?
Actually, I think I have. I couldn't tell you what the conversations were about, but I think I've definitely rode a few times with David.
I would bet David brought up the Olive Garden or Whataburger or something like that.
Or the Team Texas High Performance Racing School.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, just his high performance racing school there. We've done stuff back when I was driving for the Army. When the soldiers would come back from overseas, they come back into Fort Hood, and we'd come down and give rides there at Texas Motor Speedway to all the soldiers that were coming back. One of the coolest things I ever done. And had a good time, met a lot of good people, and I know David was a big part of all that stuff. So just good stuff.